This is John Colo with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and on this episode I have a very special guest on the show today. This is Abeba Wright, who is known as the Crazy Cracker Lady. You know what I'm saying? And that's because she makes dehydrated crackers, and she's been doing this now for 17 years, and there's probably not a day that goes by that her dehydrator in her home is not dehydrating some crazy crackers that's out of one of her crazy good recipe books. And she just came out with her 5th cracker recipe book, which you guys will learn about in a second. And I want to let you guys know that the dehydrator she uses in her home is the Excalibur brand dehydrator. And if you guys need to buy a dehydrator, I would encourage you guys to visit my website at discountjuicers.com. Your purchase there allows me to continue my work to make all these educational videos that I make for you guys online. So I want to thank you guys for that in advance. And I recommend actually the Excalibur 3948 model, which is actually the computer controlled model. It's actually more precise. And that plays into dehydration. And what we're going to talk about in this episode is actually the top 5 mistakes we don't want you guys to make when dehydrating. So let's go ahead and get right into that. So before we get into the top 5 mistakes that people normally make when dehydrating that we don't want you guys to make, and that's what we're making the episode today, I want to take the time to let you know a little bit more about Abeba and her experience using the dehydrator and making the crazy crackers, and why she's on the show telling you guys the mistakes you can make when dehydrating. So first off, I want to say that I think dehydrating could be definitely a really good part of someone's diet, depending on where you're at in your health journey, right? So me, for example, I don't like to dehydrate things all the time. I use my dehydrator mainly for food preservation. When I have a lot of peppers, a lot of tomatoes in my garden, a lot of kale, and it's gonna go bad if I don't use it, I'll dehydrate it so now it keeps it shelf stable and I could store it for a period of time before I get to eat it, because fresh fruits and fresh vegetables expire. And I'll be the first to tell you guys that eating your food fresh is always best, right? Dehydrated foods can dehydrate you, so I want to encourage you guys, if you do eat dehydrated foods and make them, to always drink them with some liquids. Some fresh juice, some coconut water, some filtered water, whatever you guys got. But I will say that, fresh fruits and vegetables are the best. But hey, if dehydrated crackers that you make at home, they're way better than a corn chip or tortilla chip, some Pringles. Most junk you could buy at the store, you could be making stuff like 10 times, 100 times healthier than that junk in your own home out of fruits and vegetables, and then eat them. So Abeba, the question I have for you is, why did you get into dehydrating, and why are you known as the Crazy Cracker Lady?
Well, I can tell you that when I first started doing raw food, when I learned about raw food, that was in 2000. And I actually had gone to Optimum Health Institute and did a cleanse, and I said, this is nice, I feel pretty good, but I don't know if I'll be able to do this the rest of my life. And I had the opportunity to do a class with someone that had something that looked like a cracker on the table. And after doing wheatgrass and things that just weren't that exciting, I said, wow, if I can do a cracker, one of my binge foods of choice, because if I tell you about the crackers and the chips that I ate, you just wouldn't believe it. And I was one who would tend to overeat them. But when I found out that I could make my own cracker, my whole world changed. And so I started experimenting on doing crackers and going to different potlucks, raw food potlucks in the Bay Area. And every time that people would make a dish, we'd always have to put our name by what we made. And I was doing crackers. People would say, who made these crackers? And I was like, well, I did. Well, I want the recipe. And so I said, okay. So I'd write down the recipe. So after about the 4th or 5th potluck that I went to, and I had written down the recipe, or someone asked me about it, and said, I want the recipe. And I said, okay. So I'd write it down. I said, I'm sick of writing recipes. And so right at that moment, for me, I'm a Christian, and I heard the Lord say, write a book. I was like, write a book? Are you serious? You got to be joking. And I ended up writing a book, and it was the first 12 crackers that people really, really asked about. It was the barbecue chip, it was an onion ring, sunflower power, just a number of crackers. And so I decided that this is something that I wanted to do. I wanted to do a healthy cracker. I didn't want to do any more of the crackers that I binged out on, because they had, I can't even call them ingredients.
The junk food crackers from the
crackers
store.
that would have probably like 30 different things on there that they say were ingredients that you couldn't even pronounce.
Yeah.
So once I was able to learn how to make the crackers and found out that people really appreciated the crackers, I said, this is something that, maybe I might do a book. And how I ended up becoming the crazy cracker lady, I was experimenting on a lot of different crackers, and there was a couple that I would always go to their house and say, try these and let me know what you think about these. And the husband said, you make the craziest crackers. And I decided that if I ever do a book, that I was going to name myself the Crazy Cracker Lady, and crazy and cracker with a K, not a C, so that would stand out even more. But I have to admit that I eat the crackers, my own crackers, the same way I ate the other crackers. So I wanted to have a few more crackers for you to be able to see, but you can always go to my YouTube channel and you can see all the different crackers. I do an onion ring that is absolutely the bomb. Actually, one of John's the favorite are the onion rings.
Because I used to like Funyuns and onion rings when I was a kid, and I don't eat those anymore, obviously, but I'll eat the crazy cracker lady onion rings.
Onion rings, they are the bomb.
Yeah, they're still good.
They're still good. They're done with a white onion, and they're coated with the barbecue chip recipe, and you can make a number of different onion rings out of a lot of the recipes that I have. You will absolutely love it, but the crunch is the secret to a crazy cracker. There's a lot of crackers out there, but if it doesn't have a crunch, it's not a crazy cracker. But the books that I have will show you how to make the crackers. They're done in a dehydrator, and it's just really a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it. It's a love for me, and I'm going to continue creating recipes that people will love and doing things different. You can use the cracker recipes as a pate. You can use them as dips. They don't always have to be a cracker, but of course, that's what I do, are crackers. So that's really about how I came up with doing this, and I love it. And what really, really blesses me is that when people try to make the crackers, or they make the crackers, they'll send me a comment on YouTube and say, this is the first time that I ever made a cracker that had taste, and it was crunch, and it was exactly what you said it was going to be. So I really, really am very, very eternally grateful for that. So I'm going to continue doing this because, again, people love it, and crackers are still one of my binge foods of choice. And even though it's been 17 years, I still got a long way to go.
And maybe you guys have a long way to go. Maybe you're still eating the crackers out of the health food store. The chips or whatever, And you guys could do better. And that's what my whole channel's about, is about good, better, best, right? Instead of eating the junk food chips, even the health food organic chips that are processed, that are made in some factory and who knows where, and they're adding who knows what kind of chemicals and things to it, make it at home. I'm all about you guys making your own food at home. And if you have a husband or a wife, a boyfriend or girlfriend, they're still eating the junk stuff, and you're the person that's like into health, right? You could make some of these crackers that Abeba has in her recipe books, and they're gonna love it. And you could get them off their junk cracker so that they could get healthier too. Anyways, Abeba, I don't want to talk to you all night.
Okay.
Let's get into the top 5 mistakes that people make when dehydrating that we don't want them to do.
Mm-hmm.
So the first mistake is don't over or under dehydrate. So talk more about that, Abeba.
Okay, so when you have a dehydrator, whichever one you so choose, I actually like the Excalibur. So if you under dehydrate, your cracker or chip is not going to be ready. You want to do it at the correct temperature for what you're going to be dehydrating. And I do chips, and my chips are thin. I do crackers also, but they're still thin. So because I like them so much, they get ready a lot faster when it's a thinner chip or a thinner cracker. But you want to make sure that it's thoroughly dry, because if you don't, then you may get mold. So you want to make sure that it's totally dry. And usually it takes about 16 to 18 hours to dehydrate the crackers. But it also depends on your location, where the dehydrator is. If the dehydrator is by a window, that's going to make the time of it be a little bit longer. If it's the dehydrator is, there's a wall that's behind it, then it's going to be about the average time is going to be about 16 to 18 hours. And again, that depends on the thinness or the thickness of the cracker or the chip. So.
Yeah, and although she's talking specifically about, dehydrating chips, these things also apply to whatever you're dehydrating. If you're dehydrating tomatoes, you don't want to under-dehydrate it.
Exactly.
Because then it's still going to be moist. You put it in a bag, it's going to mold.
Exactly.
And over-dehydrating is probably better than under-dehydrating because it's going to be more crispy.
Yes.
But Abeba, how can somebody tell if it's ready or not?
What they want to do is, if it says about 16 hours, all you have to do is just test it. If it tastes like it still has a little bit of moisture in there, then just let it dry a little bit longer. But if it has that crunch, like a cracker, then you know that it's ready. You want to make sure that you just test it. Once it's been in the dehydrator, and if the recipe says 16, 18 hours, you want to test it. If it doesn't taste like it's dry, then you're gonna keep it in there just a little bit longer until it is dry. You do not want to underheat the cracker or the chip. You want to make sure that it's totally dry. If it's not, it's going to be a mistake. So. All
right. So the second mistake that people normally make is dehydrating the wrong thickness. So you want to talk about the thickness of what is the right thickness?
Okay, for me, in my opinion, because my crackers and my chips are thin, it's going to, again, goes back to the time it's going to take to dry. If you're going to make the cracker or the chip thick, it's going to take longer to dry. It may take about 20 hours, might take more than 20 hours to dry. So it all depends on what you like. Personally, I like thin chips, thin crackers. The flavor just stands out much more for me, and also, again, it takes less time to dry. So you want to always test and see if the cracker is done. Sometimes the cracker may be nice and crunchy on the inside, so another thing that you want to be very, very looking at is that if you're going to be spreading the cracker, that the thickness is the same from every uniform. Because if it's not, then if it's thicker in the middle, then it's going to take longer to dry. And then if it's thinner on the edges, that's going to be crunchy, and it's not going to get burned because it's not going to do that because of the temperature. But you just want to make sure that it's even all the way through. And when you're dropping them by spoonful, the same thing. Make sure that it's not too thick in the middle and that it's the same all the way around. And when you look at it, it's going to be fabulous. You're going to be saying, wow, this is a chip. I love this. And the flavor is absolutely wonderful. So those are things that you want to make sure that everything is even. And you want to check it. You don't assume that, well, the recipe says 16 to 18 hours, it's going to be ready. There's a lot of variables for that, so you want to be sure you pay attention to that so that your cracker or your chip stays at the right, it's going to be the right temperature, and it's also going to be done all the way around.
Awesome, yeah, so have the right thickness, whether you're doing the crackers that she was talking about, or whether you're slicing up, pineapple or watermelon or tomatoes or whatever you're dehydrating. Have a nice, I like to do thinner slices because thinner slices dehydrate faster, so you don't have to run your dehydrator as long.
That's right.
The only negative is if you're doing thinner slices, you can't fit as much produce in because a thicker slice, that means you can fit more in. But I'd rather go with thinner slices, dehydrate faster, more success, better crunch,
that's right.
And less time, so that's going to save you guys some money. And also, make sure you have uniform slices. So if you have some slices of tomatoes that are really thick and some that are really thin, the thin ones will be done first, and then it's going to take longer for the thick ones. So, I get out a mandolin when I'm slicing tomatoes, and I make sure they're always the same exact thickness. Mm-hmm. Third mistake that people make when dehydrating is don't dehydrate at the wrong temperature. So what's that about, Abeba?
Okay. In my book and also other raw food books, they're going to mostly say to dehydrate at 105. And 105 tends to be the safe temperature to do it at. But again, it depends on your locale. At 105, there's some, Ann Wigmore advocated 115. And the temperature in the dehydrator can change because it just depends on where it's set in your house. Sometimes some people might have it in the garage. You're going to have more air coming in that way. So just depending on where it is, that will determine the temperature that you want to have it at. Again, for me, it's going to be 105. And there's sometimes, if I'm dehydrating tomatoes, that's going to be, the rule of thumb for that is 145 degrees for the first 2 hours. And then you're going to turn it down to about 115, even maybe 110. Because if you don't dehydrate it at that 145, then the tomatoes are going to mold. And if you've bought all these wonderful tomatoes to dehydrate, and then here you are, you have mold because you said, oh no, it's got to be at 105. No, because it's a lot of water content that's in there. So that's going to cause it to mold. So generally you're going to see in most raw food books, and also in mine, it's going to be 105. But again, 110, 118, 115, that's not going to, in my opinion, it's not going to kill the enzymes or anything. You have to weigh out two things on whether the enzymes are what you want, which is what we need, and at 105, great. And then there's something else I think that John's going to talk about too that you can also look at too and decide on which one you want more. Do you want the enzymes, or do you want the other thing that he's going to mention to you? For me, I want to do it at 105 to 115. That works for me, and that works for my chips. And also, if you have a thin chip or a thin cracker, it's going to take a faster time. It's going to be faster to dry. If it's going to be thicker, it's going to take a longer time to dry. So I don't know if I would want to have my crackers or my chips being in the dehydrator so long because they're thick and taking longer to dry. So in my opinion, 105 to 115.
All right, good deal. So yeah, I want to let you guys know, like, it depends on the dehydrator you have. So if you have an Excalibur, an old school Excalibur like the 2900, the 3900, the 2926 model, those are using the old technology, like not computer controlled, and the temperature variance for the old school Excaliburs are about 10 degrees. And so that's why they say if you put it at 105, it's really going to get up to about 115 in the dehydrator. And Ann Wigmore says that you don't want to go above 118 total, despite no matter what the dial says, you don't want to go above that temperature, 118, because you'll start degrading the enzymes. Now, you know, that's what I went with for many years of my life, and dehydrating at 105, so I don't go above 118, but just some recent information that I learned, and is in documented published studies actually, is that at a lower temperature for a longer period of time, while you may be keeping the enzymes that Abeba talked about, you know, one of the things that's most important to me is, you know, number one is I'm not eating dehydrated food for its enzymes. I mean, it's been dehydrated, the water's removed, while there still may be some enzyme content in there, right? I'd rather have some fermented foods for the enzymes because they're totally active, or some fresh foods or some sprouts for the enzymes. But what I really want out of the dehydrated food personally is I want some more of the phytochemicals and phytonutrients. These are some of the most, you know, important nutrients in the food for me based on my latest research. These are the things that help keep you young, help ward off disease, and doing it at a lower temperature, you're going to reduce the amount of phytochemicals because you have to go for a longer time. And think about it, when the dehydrator is running, there's air blowing across, and the air blowing across is basically causing oxidative damage. So we want to minimize the amount of air blowing across. We want to kick up the temperature. We might be destroying some enzymes, but you're going to keep more phytonutrients. So you guys have the choice. Do you want to do it for a hotter temperature for a shorter amount of time and keep more phytonutrients, or do you want to keep it at a lower temperature for a longer amount of time? Of course, using also a longer time is also likely going to cost more to run. And the other thing I want to say is that depending on your dehydrator, right? I'm talking about the major brand Excalibur. They're probably one of the major brand names in dehydrators, and their temperatures, even on their computer controlled models, I think the accuracy on that is like 7 or 8 degrees different. But if you get something like a Sedona dehydrator, that has pinpoint accuracy, so you're going to actually want to crank the temperature up to the actual temperature you want, not 10 degrees below. And the final thing on temperature I'll say is, you know, you want to dehydrate at the right temperature for your needs, right? And we're talking about fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds here. If you are doing, you know, meats and things, you have to do it at a way hotter temperature because there may be E. coli in your meat. So I just don't recommend eating meats in general because the contamination of the E. coli and other things. But to each their own. And the other thing that I want to mention is nowadays what I do, just kind of like how Abeba does her tomatoes, anything I put in the dehydrator, and I have the Excalibur computer-controlled model that you could do this easily. They have a 2-time, 2-temperature. So I put whatever I'm putting in there, and I set the dehydrator, okay, dehydrator, you're going to run for 2 or 3 hours at 133 degrees. And so really it'll peak out at 140 because it's about 7 degrees difference, I think, of what it says and what it actually is on the inside. I'll do that for 2 to 3 hours, and then I'll kick it down to like 111. So then I'm basically at like 118 for the rest of my dehydration time. So this does 2 things. It speeds up the dehydration time, so I got a compromise of enzymes and phytonutrients. And plus I'm saving a little bit of power since I'm dehydrating a lot of the liquid off in the first couple hours, and then I crank it down to the lower temperature.
I love that he mentioned that, especially the phytonutrients. I didn't even think about that. All I ever thought about was the enzymes, but now I don't feel bad that I actually ended up turning the dehydrator a little bit higher again because of what Ann Whitmore had said. So thank you so much. I learned something, and phytonutrients is what I want. I want both. But now I know I can have both, depending on how I do it with the temperature. So.
And even if your temperature is hotter in the dehydrator, all the crackers you make, Abeba, and eat is still way better than them fried foods. And fried foods are probably the worst foods you can put in your body.
Yeah.
You know, better than fried stuff would be baked stuff, but hey, better than baked, dehydrated, baby. Yeah. So the 5th mistake that people make when dehydrating any kind of recipe, so whether you're making some, eggplant jerky or eggplant bacon, or whether you're making some crackers or chips or cookies in the dehydrator. This is not necessarily applied to whole fresh fruit and vegetables, even kale chips, right? You don't want to not test before you put your recipe in the dehydrator. So Abeba, what's up with the taste testing, and why should you taste test before you put your recipe in the dehydrator?
Okay, well, in my opinion, because the crackers that I do, the crazy cracker lady does, I can guarantee with accuracy that the crackers are going to be off the chain because I have tested, tried, and true these crackers. However,
and hundreds of thousands of customers around the world have tried your crackers and given you feedback.
Everywhere. I mean, I have a 12-year-old girl that she's just been a blessing. Her grandmother brought my book, and she started making some crackers, and she says, oh, my granddaughter would love this. Her name is Kylie, and Kylie has been making the onion ring, which is like world famous. It really is. Have been making the onion rings and making crackers, and I tell you, she just says, I never have to add anything else to it, but what you want to make sure you do, because for me, how the crackers ended up being with the flavors that they had, they were tested, tried, and true. You might want a little more salt. You might want a little more sweet. They have what they call, what makes a food gourmet. There's 4 S's and 1 B. There's sweet, sour, savory, and what's the other one? Sweet, sour, savory, salty, and then bitter. And
I'd add one more. Umami.
Okay.
Yeah,
but anyway, if you have those 5 flavors, that's what's going to make the food gourmet.
And taste good.
So when you're doing your cracker, you want to make sure whether you're doing it in the blender or whether you're doing it in the food processor, you want to test it to make sure that that's the taste that you want. And also know that when it's dehydrated, that the flavors are going to intensify because of the heat. So if you taste something and it tastes a little bit too salty because you're used to having a little more salt, it's going to be really salty because it's been dehydrated.
You're taking out the water.
You're taking out the water.
It concentrates everything.
Absolutely. So you want to make sure that the taste is really all balanced. And so again, you want to use those 5 flavors, and you'll have the best tasting cracker or chip ever. But always test it. Just don't assume because you see a recipe and say, well, this is probably okay. And then after you've taken all this time to make a cracker or a chip from somebody else, that they just say, man, this doesn't have any taste. It's not happening. you still want to make sure that you test the batter before you put it in the dehydrator, because the crackers or the chips are going to be in the dehydrator for a minimum of 16 hours or plus. And after you've done all the work to prepare your cracker or your chip, and then you dehydrate it and then find out
it's not so good.
This ain't happening. You know what I'm saying? But fortunately, I will have to say, because I've been doing the crazy cracker for 17 years, that they're pretty much on hit for the seasonings that you're putting in there. But it's entirely up to you. Always test it before you put it in the dehydrator, and once it's in there, then you can go to my YouTube channel or whatever, or Facebook page, and just say, girl, those things were off the hook. They were perfect. I didn't have to do anything else different than that. But that's a really good question. I'm glad that that John asked me that, because it really is true. You don't want to put all this time into making your cracker and chip and turn out that it's not happening. And I especially want, when people do any of my crackers, that they want to make the best cracker ever. They may have had some failures from somebody else, and then they've tried the cracker and say, wow, because that's happened to me on so many different occasions, and I'm eternally grateful for that. This was truly a God thing. I love crackers. That's still my binge food of choice. And so I just want to let you know that for all of you who are looking at this video and want to learn how to make the best cracker ever, and also remember those top 5 mistakes that you don't want to do for a cracker. Please don't take the time to buy all your organic ingredients and just kind of like, oh, whatever. No, this takes time. You're putting love into something that's taking some time. You've gone to buy all the ingredients, and then you come home and you put all this together, and then you put it in the dehydrator. So if you really add up all those hours, you might have put in about 25, 30 hours, and then you get a jacked up chip or cracker. Really?
That means it don't taste no good.
It ain't happening, boo.
Totally right, Abeba. I want to encourage you guys to, taste test. If you're not using one of her recipes are totally proven. They're going to be totally spot on. I've had so many of her different crackers. Always amazing. But if you're making your own recipe using somebody else's recipe, you want to taste test before you put it in, because you spend all the time to make the mixture. You spend all the money to buy the ingredients, and then your dehydrator is going to be running for 16 hours, 12, 16 hours using the energy. And then when you got the crackers, the chips at the end, doesn't taste no good. That's messed up. But if they don't taste no good, don't throw them out, right? Just make a really good dip to go with it to offset the bad tasting crackers.
That's right.
And don't throw away that expensive food, or give them to your pets as a treat. So like my dog loves kale chips and things I make in the dehydrator, because it's like reminds him of like a dog treat. But hey, it's what I would eat: organic food and healthy stuff too. All right, so we're down to the 5th and final mistake, and this is a mistake I see so many people make, and actually I've even made this sometimes before, and the mistake is, don't store your dehydrated foods in baggies or improperly sealed containers. So what's this about, Abeba?
Okay. After you have spent all these hours on making the crackers or the chips, gone to the store, you've done all this preparation, and again, it could be like upwards of 25 hours, and then you put it in a baggie. That's the wrong thing, because it's not going to, first of all, it's not going to hold in the crunch, because it's still air that's in that baggie. So you want to put it in an airtight container. There's several containers that I could say. I don't know if I should say.
What about this one? I mean, this is the one you use for your crackers. It keeps the crunch, right?
This is what I use.
This looks like a Tupperware, like the real brand name Tupperware. Do they still make that stuff?
They still make Tupperware, and they tell you that when you put the container on, you want to make sure that you burp it to get all the air out, so that's going to make sure that your crackers, your chips are always going to be crunchy. You can use Rubbermaid. There's a lot of containers that you can use that will keep your crackers or your chips fresh. And people will ask me, well, Abeba, how long do your crackers crackers really last? Well, that's a two-part question. First of all, they're good, so they're really not going to last you that long because you're going to keep on eating them. The second thing is that I've had people that have told me that their crackers have lasted. My sister, as a matter of fact, she does eat my crackers. She loves the crackers, but that's not a binge food of choice for her. So she can actually have the crackers maybe for about a month, 6 weeks or something like that, but it's in an airtight container. That's crucial. If you don't do that, then the crackers are going to get soft. They're not going to have that crazy cracker crunch, and that's what you want. My crackers, when people talk about Abeba's crackers, it's the crunch. It's the crunch, and they know that the crackers they're good, they're going to last, and you have to have it in an airtight container. If you don't, it's just not going to work. The crackers may last, be fresh, crunchy maybe for a few days, but most people, they don't keep them but for a few days because they keep on eating them. So be sure it's in an airtight container. That's the best thing that you can do. Do not use a baggie. Don't get lazy. Well, I don't have any containers. Well, get some containers or eat up the crackers in the baggie within 2 days. That's the best thing you can do.
Yeah, no matter if you're making crackers or dehydrating your tomatoes and you're storing your stash of tomatoes, right?
Yes.
Don't use a baggie. What people don't realize is that baggies, they're permeable. They let air in and out even though they look solid, right? A dog, if you put something like cannabis in a baggie, the dog can smell the cannabis through the baggie. What's that telling you? Something's getting through that baggie, right? And trained dogs. So don't store your cannabis in baggies, and don't store your dehydrated foods in baggies either, because they will let the moisture in, and it's not really good. So my tips for to go on and above Abeba's tips is number one, if you don't seal the baggie or there's extra air in there, depending on where you live, there could be extra humidity in the air, and the humidity gets in and ruins the crunch. The extra humidity is actually adding water into your food, which also may make your food go bad, and or you cannot store it as long. So if you're expecting to store your dehydrated tomatoes for a couple years, ain't gonna happen if you got moisture in there, right? So some other tips are, you could always put your crackers or dehydrated food in a sealed container and then put it in the freezer. So that's one way to preserve it if you want to store your dehydrated food longer. Another thing you could do is you could put it like in a vacuum container. So like a mason jar with a vacuum lid where you could suck out all the extra oxygen and air. That's going to also help you keep it longer if you're not making her crackers. If you're making her crackers, I'll tell you, you're probably going to eat them in a day or two.
That's right.
Especially if you got a family. The other thing you guys could do is get an oxygen absorber. So put an oxygen absorber in the vacuum sealed like a mason jar that's airtight. That's probably one of the best things you guys could do for storing things for a long time. I think the only thing above that would be like a good Mylar pouch with an oxygen absorber. That's even the best, but still, even in the dehydrator, you're going to keep some level of moisture in the food, even if it still has got the crunch. So, I'll have another episode one of these days on freeze drying. That's even the next level, but the freeze dry machines are way more expensive. Anyways, Abeba, that's pretty much all the tips today. Any final comments or thoughts you want to share with my customers about specifically dehydration?
Well, first, let me just say again, I just really appreciate John doing this video, because people are always wanting to have more information on doing crackers and, how do you do your crackers? Are they done in the oven? I'm like, no, they're done in the dehydrator. And they want to always know what a dehydrator is and how to work it. Dehydrators have been around for a long time, and for me, I do use the Excalibur. That's what I'm used to using. And whatever dehydrator that you get all the information that you need to make whatever you make, because all the time that you've put into, again, buying ingredients and dehydrating for the length of time that it takes to do, you just want to make sure that you have the right one that's going to work for you. And dehydrated foods is not something that you want to eat on a continuous basis, because just like it, you want to eat my crazy crackers though, just like when you're dehydrating something, that's taking the water out of everything. So even when you're eating the crackers or anything else that's dehydrated, you want to also make sure that you're hydrating yourself. Constantly do that, because again, it's sucking out the water from you, and you don't want to do that. So you just want to go on and just add a little more water, because I know for me, when I started making the crackers and stuff, I'm going back and forth and getting them, and some of them I don't even have salt in there. You know, salt makes you thirsty too, so I just try to make sure that I drink a lot more water when I'm doing the crackers or anything else that's dehydrated. So that's really pretty much about it, you know. So
all right, cool. All right, Abeba, so yeah, thanks for sharing your tips with my viewers today. I really want to appreciate it. Now, I do want to let you guys know that Abeba wrote like 5 different books here. And I don't know, these probably aren't in order, but you know, here's one book, Abeba's More Lip Smacking Favorites. There's one here called Absolutely Abeba's Edible Treats, More Crazy Crackers and Cookies Without Nuts, for those of you guys that are nut sensitive. Mm-hmm. We got the original Absolutely Abeba's Lip Smacking Favorites 2nd edition. And then we got the Absolutely Abeba's Crazy Crackers, the first book, and now we got her most recent book. And look at this book, man. This book is amazing. Some of the pictures in there. Look at these crackers. I mean, these guys seriously like look like a bag of, you know, chips that you would open up. Some amazing pictures. I mean, these will just get your mouth watering, and then when you make them, you're going to be eating them all up. Look at that picture in there. Some amazing pictures. And, you know, because you guys watched the end of this episode, you know, I've negotiated a special deal for you guys, right? Like, you could get one of the books, and some of these books, you know, this is like $15.95. Some of these are $10 and all this kind of stuff. And the cool thing is with all these books here, there's nearly 100 different crazy cracker recipes. And because Abeba is a long-term friend of mine, and she knows I like to hook my people up with a good discount, right? We're going to get you an unheard of discount. She's never done this ever before, and she probably won't do it ever again. But for a limited time only, I'm going to hook you guys up with 50% off all these books. So the deal is you got to buy all the different books. You're going to get nearly 100 recipes, and these are the rest. If you've been looking for like dehydrated chip recipes, these are the books you want to get. You're going to have 100 different ones, and I swear, once you make some of these, and maybe you're not, the first one you make, you may not like as much as some other people, but you're going to try a different one, and you're going to find your guys' favorites. And these are the recipes that could get you off the junk food chips. These are the healthy food chips that then you can even make and dip in some guacamole, dip in some fresh hummus, whatever you guys want, and 50% off. So the value is normally like $65 if you have to pay full price for all these books. I'm going to hook you guys up with the OK Raw. Use OK Raw, letter O, letter K, R-A-W. Discount code on our website, Crazy Cracker Lady. That's with a K, Crazy with a K, and Crackers with a K. I'll put a link down below so you guys can get the hookup, all these books, they're ebooks, right to your email box, $32.50 for all of them delivered. So that's an amazing deal. So, Abeba, you want to say any comments about this crazy deal that I'm hooking up for my people?
I absolutely do. Let me say this. On this book right here, Lip Smacking Favorites, this has crackers, but it also has pâtés, it has soups, it has desserts. There were some people that said, Abeba, you know, you make good crackers and stuff, it's good, and you know, one day I'm gonna get to those crackers, I'm gonna get a dehydrator, but I love that kale salad that you do, I love that salsa that you do, I love the dessert that you do, and that's in here. So this book actually has crackers and all the other things I just mentioned, the salads, the soups, desserts, salsas. So this is fabulous. And I just want to say about this book, this has the new and improved, this is more Lip Smacking Favorites, this has the new and improved barbecue chip and onion ring. The onion ring is off the hook. This boy over here, I ain't lying, I'm telling you, onion rings, it's coming out.
I'll eat it all.
All of it. And then this book was the very, very first book that I did. Abeba's Crazy.
That's from like the potlucks, you know, when people like your potluck stuff, you put it in that book.
It was all in this book. This had the first 12 recipes that I did consistently that people always were saying, you know, I really like those, I like those. So this is what this book, how this book came about. The first 12 recipes that people were always talking about. And then this is the second book. This particular book is Abeba's Edible Treats, including More Crazy Crackers and Cookies with Nuts. The thing about this book was that people were saying that I'm tired of all these nuts, all these different desserts and stuff that people have. It's just nuts. Well, for this, I said, you know what? I'm not going to be doing everything with nuts. So when you get this book, you're saying, wow, she's got desserts and I don't have to use almonds. I don't have to use this, don't have to use that. This is the book for that. This book, which is the latest book, this has so much information in this book. This talks about, it has a measurement guide. It talks about dehydration. It also has, what else do I have in here? Pictures. One of the pictures that I want to show you so that you can see.
Oh, the onion ring. Look at that. Oh my God, my mouth is watering.
It is the bomb. It is the bomb. I'm just going to go through this again here. Look at this. More pictures of the crackers, how they will look. And then also, I mentioned that I had a recipe guide and frequently asked questions. That's crucial because people, very rarely has anyone contacted me about a question, but I said any question that someone has, I want them to know specifically what they're going to be getting when they get the book. And any questions that may come up, you don't have to worry about that because it's in this book. You don't have to worry about anything like that. It's all right here for you. So again, the hookup, because if it wasn't John, believe me, baby, we wouldn't be getting all this.
She didn't even want to do this, but I twisted her arm.
Okay, but he twisted my arm, but this is something that, this is a gift that I give to you. This is a gift that God really gave me because I truly love crackers, and it's a blessing seeing people when they eat the crackers. They're like, man, who made these crackers? It's something that was really good, and it blesses me for that to happen. And again, I just appreciate John doing this video, and he did my very first video. It's at least 10 years, almost 10 years ago,
now. Wow, it's been that long.
And it was in his wonderful yard with all this stuff. I'm not a gardener yet. I'm trying to do a little bit, but that's what he does. He does all that
She
stuff.
does the dehydrating. I just eat her stuff.
He does his stuff. But I want to thank you so much. And how I like to end whenever I do anything is to enjoy your crazy crackers, and any questions or anything that you ever want to know about crackers, please don't hesitate to send me a message on YouTube or a message on my Facebook page, which is Abeba Crazy Crackers. So thank you so much, John. You are a gift, and I appreciate what John has been able to do for so many people to help people improve their health. No matter what condition that is in, you can always improve your health. A lot of us give up a lot of times where we say, oh, I just don't want to deal with it. I'm just going to do what the doctor says. But God has given us all the things that we need to make our bodies work like a machine for us. And I want to do it with healthy foods. And for me, again, crackers, that's what I do. But you don't want to always eat dehydrated food all the time. If you do, make sure you hydrate with water. So again, I want to thank John so much. And he will have all these books up for you to get the hookup. So thank you again, and always remember, enjoy your crazy crackers.
Awesome. Yeah, and the other thing I want to say is, the reason why we're doing this deal for you guys, both me and Abeba, we want to get you off that junk food crackers if you guys are still eating those, right? There's no excuse now. You have no excuse not to buy all these recipe books, right? I mean, normally this one right here is $15.95. You buy one more of these, that's going to be like $30. But now you're going to get all of these guys with so many different recipes so you guys could start eating healthier today. Totally amazing. And I will attest, these have some of the best dehydrated recipes that I've ever tasted myself. So yeah, check out the links down below. Use the hookup OKRaw. 50% off coupon code only if you buy all the books. It's not going to work otherwise, because I just didn't want you guys to have to choose, like, John, what book should I get? Should I get this one or this one? Well, I'm getting you guys such a good deal. Just buy them all and go through and pick out and make some of the recipes, and you'll find out quickly which ones are your favorite ones so you guys could eat healthier and get off the junk. That's the most important thing. I mean, once again, good, better, best. If you guys are normally going to buy chips and eat that all day, I'm not going to like say anything's wrong with that, but I will say is you guys should be eating her chips. It's way healthier. And yeah, even better than that would be eat fresh fruits and vegetables all day, right? But it depends where you're at. I like to enjoy some of Abeba's crackers sometimes. When I'm traveling on an airplane, I can't bring fresh stuff. you know, I like to bring dehydrated foods all the time because that allows me to concentrate some of the nutrients. And, you know, her recipes have lots of different fruits and vegetables in there. So basically, you're just eating dehydrated fruits and vegetables, which are the second best food in the world because the first best is fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. Anyways, be sure you check the links down below, and I encourage you guys strongly to purchase this special deal that's only available for a limited time. So before I go, I got to try a cracker from Abeba. Here's like a little piece. She's like probably eating them all, and there's like crumbs left. But we'll get one and try it.
That's the crunch, baby.
Nice and crunchy, man. I swear. The crunch really makes a cracker. So yeah, get these books, make them yourself, feed you and your family some healthy, good, delicious, amazing dehydrated foods.
Amazing.
If you guys enjoyed this episode with Abeba and want to see her again on my show, please be sure to give me a thumbs up on this video. If I get a lot of thumbs up, I'll come see her. Maybe we'll even do some recipe demos and have a bigger spread for you guys. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below. You never know where I'll show up or the video that I'll be making and what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel. I have videos coming out every 5 to 7 days. Also, be sure to check my past episodes. Once again, I'll put a link down below to the original video I did with Abeba like 10 years ago. It's kind of crazy. You can watch that, and all my other videos are a wealth of information so you guys can eat healthier by including more fresh fruits and fresh vegetables in your diet. So with that, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best.